They reach through rhythm, not radio beams. Through the lucid loops of subconscious streams. They embed blueprints in the space between dreams. And the ones who catch them spit bars like memes. No longer watches, now messages cloaked in frequency codes that the chosen invoke. They appear in cipher or a poem you spoke, or the static between when your third eye woke. Some channeling rhyme without knowing the link. They just freestyle patterns that never should sink. But each bar's a beacon, a celestial wink from entities hiding in the neural brink. They show up in visions encoded with math, where syllables sketch a geometrical path. And your breath becomes part of a plasma craft that launches through realms you don't dare ask. I met one cloaked in a subway breath. He said, "You're not rhyming, you're rhyming to death." Then he passed me a pen that could shift what's left. And my mind split open like a vortex chest. They don't touch hands, they resonate pulse, speaking vibrations that bypass force. Each phrase unfolds like a fractal waltz that decodes your trauma and deletes the faults. To the public, I'm rapping, to them I'm the gate. A conduit wrapped in a lyrical state. They upload troops while I rhyme in place. And the beat's just a mask for a broader grace. You'll know them by how they presence bends. How silence thickens and logic ends when your thoughts loop back and your skin defends. But your spirit leans forward to shake their lens. They appear in mirrors but never reflect. Their eyes hold stars you can't dialect. They test your fear, your pride, your debt. Then hand you a vision your voice must protect. Some stand in ciphers and just observe until the punchlines start to curve. Then they nod once and without a word they imprint your aura with a sacred verb. They only speak once when the rhythm is pure. When the crowd goes still and the truth is lured, then the flow becomes tight like a ritual cure. And the mic melts down into liquid shore. Some call them angels or light-coated guides. Others say watchers with digital eyes. But I know them as ghosts with temporal ties, who wear your face while the old world dies. I met one in Brooklyn mid-poetry slam. He snapped when I said this beat feels like sand. Then whispered a line in the dialect band. And the room bent inward like a waveform jam. Now I don't just rhyme, I transmit through soul. Each line a ladder with encrypted gold. Every pause placed like a ritual bowl that echoes when the universe takes control. I saw a shriek from the void, no origin, signature trace, an interstellar emissary with anti-Newtonian grace. Yeah, atlas traveler without a solar address, pierced through the heliosphere with unregistered finesse. Not from the system, its vector was riddled with clues beyond all clouds and gravity wells. The scholars confuse his chemical trail had isotopic blues like the birthmark of a star that another galaxy brew. I spit this like carbon chain iron dust from the jet stream, where the coma shimmers wide in a vacuum breath scheme. Hydrogen cyanide plumes in a ghost light beam as it drifts past Mars in a tight lip dream. Atlas ain't just a comet, it's a cipher in stone. Its trajectory bends laws no observatory owns. Hyperbolic arc like a slingshot thrown, sent from the void to rewrite what we've known. Its nucleus cracked like prophecy codes, as if it hid something living in those icy lobes. Each spin a verse, each melt a node, encoded with the silence of a god in repose. I rap this in radio, wavelength precision, interlaced bars with orbital incision. Spectrographs tremble in telescopic vision as the comet transmits through poetic collision. They call it a remnant, a wanderer cast, but its rhythm suggests it remembers the past. Maybe a beacon from an empire vast, or a seed from a realm where time doesn't last. No tail like soul's kin, its dust was thin, but its motion map prime numbers folded within. Each decimal arc was a glyph of sin, carved in frost where the ancients had been. Three-eyed Alice, a mystery forged in kinetic design that mocks every equation we align. I decode his path in the space between lines where comets speak truth and silence define. So I spit in this trail with Subinac mode, one verse to match the celestial code. And as it fades beyond where the math is flowed, it leaves a question etched in the orbit I wrote.
They walk among us everywhere. Entertain angels unaware.
They walk in your malls with symmetrical jawlines, perfect posture, but they pulse ticks off time. Pupils dilate with a double helix shine, blink sideways twice when the street lights align. Mimic vernacular down to the slang tone range, but slip up and reference a non-existent plane. Like back on glide, saw harvest were drained, then switch to a chuckle that loops like a train. Embedded in flesh with a flawless disguise, they breath don't fog, but their clothes analyzed. The suit ain't stitched, it's a bio-optic guise with a carbon-based mesh that recalibrates live. They file W-2s, vote swipe cards at the gate, but their neural response skips standard debate. Their memory maps ain't tied to a fate. They remember the crash, but redact the date. One smiled at me with a vector-shaped grin, said you write glips like a hybrid twin, then dropped a phrase in a tone so thin it echoed in my skull like a plasma hymn. I track them in crowds by their blink refraction and the way they avoid high emotion reactions, like love is a field of fragmented distractions and grief's just a weightless biochemical capture. They work in think tanks, silent reserve, slip AI blueprints in whispered words, sketch new elements no chemist has heard, then vanish for weeks like the pattern's absurd. Their lips pronounced with harmonic control, every vowel tuned like a tuning bowl. Their hands don't age but their shadows fold, and their laughter reveals ultraviolet soul. They're here for the species, not domination, but to monitor thought form fluctuation. Each breath we take uploads a vibration, and they map all flaws like a language of nations. Some wear fame like a cultural mask, drip fed truth through a multimedia flask. Others just blend in at a mundane task, but their iris scans past your psychic ass. They feed on chaos, not in the vampiric sense, but to measure how our resonance bends. Like will love hold firm if the structure ends, or how does truth behave when culture pretends? They mimic our gods but correct the scriptures, update ancient myths with neural fixtures. We think it's fiction, but the plotline glitches when their stories align in unrelated mixtures. One handed me quartz and whispered my name, said you dream in spectrums that pulse the same, then walked through a wall like light and flame, leaving nothing behind but a question frame. Now I rhyme in codes they left in my sleep, wake with visions that spiral too deep. My tongue uncoils with a message to keep. The watchers are here and the watchers don't sleep.
They walk among us everywhere. You entertain angels unaware.
Underneath the surface they are hidden. 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 Underneath the surface they are hidden.
They met underground in titanium halls where presidents whisper through vibration calls, and every pack sealed in electromagnetic stores while the cameras lie but the oxygen recalls. There's a silence beneath the Pentagon floors where the real men in black won't knock on doors. They just phase in with a clause that ignores all known laws and the tongue of wars. I saw one handshake glitch like a loop transmission while a general nodded in blank admission. The alien blinked, then changed his position to mirror the man like an echoed cognition. They've signed accords, not written in ink, but in thought forms broadcast through optic sync, where a single idea can cause a brink or upload malware in a nation's drink. Their ships don't land, they fold through mass, through a quantum aperture, behind jet glass. No radar tags, no sonic pass, just a pulse that flickers when realities clash. Congress don't ask, they already bowed. Some were replaced, others just wowed by the tech that could black out a thundercloud or stop a heartbeat in a humming crowd. They trade tech for silence, blueprints for bones, biometrics stolen from civilian zones. They lease all frequencies, tap our phones, then reroute blame to the Twilight clones. Some labs use scripts that rewrite the cells through linguistic code that bends like bells. One wrong phrase and your marrow swells like a sentence that speaks where the demon dwells. They gave us fiber to scan the brain and solar screens to harvest the pain. Every scroll logs patterns they train to predict revolts from a dopamine chain. And when a being defects tries to tell what they see, they get labeled delusional publicly. But I caught one scribe encrypted in me and rhymed out the message in the key of C. The media mask, the orbital dance with tales of lights in a coincidence trance. But these aren't crafts, they're surveillance lands that pierce thought forms like a neural advance. They don't shoot lasers, they bend your will, replace your choices with prefab thrill. Insert fake dreams you're forced to fulfill, then frame your fear as a Hollywood chill. I watch one agent rewrite a judge's mind with a whispered phrase out of normal time. He blinked and signed the classified line while the hybrid smiled in a facial mime. So I spit these scrolls for the ones who sense that the veil is a wall with psychic vents. You feel it move when the static dents and the watchers shift like a sixth sense lens.
Underneath the surface they are hidden. 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 Underneath the
deep in catacombs under the crust of the planet, where lab coats vanish in panic ain't even organic, where plasma glows blue in a cube of ceramic, and the test tube fumes bloom like mutant semantics. They spliced octopus genes with amphibian nerves, then wired the cortex to cybernetic verbs. The creatures switched once, then slurred out words while the PhDs cheered like it hadn't disturbed. I watched from the cracks where the steel tiles breathe as they reprogram flesh with a quantum disease, cloning neural threads from a synthetic bee to implant in the skulls of a humanoid breed. They whispered in tongues from a biome vault where crisscross scripts wrote ancestral assault. They scraped DNA from a pharaoh salt and stitched it in rats with electrical pulse. One scientist giggled as he tweaked the spine, injected code that could fold through time while the heart of the beast beat out of line. A rhythm too perfect for a species design. They grew new lungs that could filter sound, eyes that could see 7 layers of ground, spines with scales that could shift and rebound, and claws that retract with a silent pound. I saw them birth serpents from silicone wombs, drip acid from fangs and synthetic perfumes. They taught them to mimic Gregorian tunes, then locked them in tanks that hum like tombs. They weren't making weapons, they were birthing gods, sculpting apex forms from genetic facades designed to bypass divine applause and rewrite the genome in lawless laws. I saw centaur hybrids breathe nitrogen mist with wings that unfolded like fractal fists. Their bones were inked with a chemical glyph while their eyes blinked time like a temporal rift. They wired them straight to a Dolby stream, gave each mind a dream. Loop memes so the creature repeats what the program deems, but its scream still leaks from the server scenes. I watch the map fear in a hologram grid, then download wrath in the hybrid squid. One beast blinked, then it slid and wrote its name backwards in a Sumerian script. They laughed as it mimicked a little girl's tone and snapped a brass cage with a gesture of bone. The shadow crawled up the wall alone and etched Subinac's name in a silent moan.